Hello there, my name is Corey Melnikoff. Just so you know who I am, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I own about a dozen businesses. They do multi-million dollars. As a hobby, I would say marketing. I do a ton of it. I have a blast with it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm psyched to tell you today I'm here with Seth Greene. He's going to share something really amazing with you. And just to tell you who Seth is so you know who's talking to you, Seth is the only person I know to be nominated back-to-back Marketer of the Year with Dan Kennedy, one of the best marketing individuals in the world. Right? He speaks on stages across the country. He's got 6 books out there, best-selling. He's been on CBS, he's been on NBC, he's been on Wall Street Journal, he's been everywhere. Right? I'm probably not doing him justice, but he has something really, really cool he's going to share with us today. And before he gets started here, I will tell you that I got him to give a really amazing deal. And you might see a timer going off right now, counting down from 24 hours. It's because even though I got him to offer you an amazing deal, because it is as amazing as it is, and you'll hear it at the end, he can't give it to anyone. We had to put a timeline on it, so watch that timer and get excited because he's going to give you something really, really cool. So Seth, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that introduction. I'm really happy to be here, really happy to get to serve the folks who are watching this today. And, you know, it's really humbling to me to hear you describe me like that because it didn't always start out that way. But today we're here to talk about you. We're here to talk about how you can stop being the best kept secret in your niche. You know, it can be really frustrating to try and be good at something and not have anybody know how good you are. So what would it do for your reputation? What would it do for your business if your ideal referral sources took your call? What would it do if you could get in front of your A++ dream wish list clients? What would it do if those colleagues that you want to network with wanted to network with you? What would it do if you could get anyone to be in your circle of influence? What would it do for you if the people that you look up to and like idolize would be friends with you? What would it do for you if the people that you wanted to learn from would mentor you without you having to spend a whole bunch of money to get them to train you or coach you? What would it do for you if you could get your foot in the door with literally anybody? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to make sure that you get the most out of today. So please, 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 no distractions. I know we're all busy, but turn off your email, turn off your cell phone, turn off your social media, close the other browser windows I know you've got open right now, and play full out. That way you'll get the most out of what I'm going to share with you today. So let me tell you why I love marketing so much, because marketing literally saved my butt. You know, like many of you, you know, when I was in high school, I had a dream of what the field I wanted to get into. And I went to Syracuse University for acting. My life goal at 18 my dream was I wanted to be a Broadway star. And you see how that worked out, or rather how it didn't. And the reason is because my senior year, 2 of my friends and I decided we were going to be producers. That's what we really wanted to do. And we decided to produce an interactive murder mystery musical called The Mystery of Edwin Drood by Charles Dickens that none of you have ever heard of, for very good reason. And that was probably my first mistake. So we produced the show and everything was going great until 6 weeks before opening night, we got a phone call from the Student Government Association that was funding the musical. And they said, we made a mistake. The bylaws of Syracuse University prohibit us from giving a first-year organization that much money. We just wanted you to know we took half your budget back out of your bank account, out of your student bank account. And holy crap, I had a choice. I was going to close the show or find a way to make the money. Well, if you've ever seen the movie Top Gun with Tom Cruise, you might remember this famous scene where the admiral says, "Son, your ego's writing checks your body can't cash." And that's what I did. My ego didn't let me close the show. I had this brilliant idea that we were going to sell tickets and we would make all the money back selling tickets. So I would just charge the budget for the show on my credit card and pay it back later. Well, unfortunately, we produced a show that no one had ever heard of and I knew nothing about marketing. And we did not sell very many tickets. And when I went to my friends at graduation and said, you guys got to get credit cards so we can split this 3 ways, they said, oh, sorry, our parents won't let us. And I got screwed. I got stuck with all the debt and had to go bankrupt. It's probably the worst day of my life, sitting in bankruptcy court with the trustee judge looking down his, bifocals at me, telling me, I'm sorry, your application says this is for a musical. I thought I had seen everything. I've been doing this for 30 years. Explain this one to me. And I told him the story, and he said, wow, I've never seen that one before. I bet you I can get the trustees to buy me a drink at happy hour tonight with your story. I said, thanks, sir. I'm glad this is funny to you, but this is my life. So I wasn't going to be a producer anymore. I decided maybe that wasn't a good career path for me. I decided, you know what? In a fluke of inspiration, I was going to become a financial advisor. It's It's a logical career change, right? So I figured I'll go become a financial advisor because I just borrowed a bunch of money to gamble on something I knew nothing about and lost. I'm going to teach people how not to do that. Well, 15 years later, no one's ever asked me, hey, should I borrow money to go produce a musical? But I did get to help people avoid some serious financial mistakes. So I go to work for A.G. Edwards, which is a Fortune 500 financial planning stock brokerage company. And the very first day I got back from training, I passed all my licensing exams. My branch manager says, I got you a book where every client is going to come from your entire career. And I said, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm 22. I'm going to go buy a Ferrari. This is great. Give me the book. And he reaches behind his desk and literally hands me the phone book. Thud on his desk. And says, they're all in there, Tiger. Go get them. And I didn't know any better. So I listened. I made 300 cold calls a day, every single day, interrupting strangers, asking them for money, getting hung up on. And if you've ever called for business, you know how much that sucks. Some days that phone weighs 800 pounds. You don't want to lift it up. And I said, there's got to be a better way. Well, in my spare time, one of my hobbies is I'm a professional magician. And as fate would have it, one day I was reading a magic magazine, a trade journal for magicians, and there was a full-page ad for a marketing course. I didn't have the money to buy it at the time because, again, I'm cold calling for a living. So I asked my parents to get it for me for my birthday. I used other people's money. So my parents bought it for me. I got the course. I implemented the course. I took action on what I learned, which is really important because if it still had the shrink wrap on it, I wouldn't be here today. I implemented what I learned, and in 30 days, I became the busiest, most expensive magician in Buffalo, of all places where I live. So it worked. So I contacted the guy who sold me the course, whose name is Dave D. And I said, Dave, would this work in my real business as a financial planner? And he said, you bet it would. I said, where did you learn it? He said, the 2 words that changed my life. He said, Dan Kennedy. So I immediately started buying some of Dan's 21 best-selling books on marketing. I started buying Dan Kennedy products. I started buying Dan Kennedy courses. And a couple of years go by. And I, along the way, have the fortune to meet and marry my soulmate, Rebecca, my amazing wife. And I finally get the chance to do a consultation with Dan. So I sit down with Dan, I show him what I'm doing, I show him my cold calling scripts and these seminar invitations I had bought from a company in the industry, and he says, you're doing everything your industry taught you, which is completely wrong. Write me a really big check and I'll change your life. His pitch was obviously a lot better than that, but I'm shortening it for the purpose of this story. So I go home to my wife and I say, honey, I know a year ago we got married. 9 months ago we bought our first house. 3 months ago we had our first baby, our son Max. And 3 weeks ago, you quit your job to be a stay-at-home mom, leaving me sole breadwinner, and I'm cold calling for a living. I need to go borrow all of this money to hire this guy, Dan. And she said, didn't you tell me a story about you borrowing money once that didn't work out so well? I'm going to say no. So I'm kind of persistent, so I asked the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and she kept saying no in a more vehement answer. You can guess the words that got inserted into that sentence. Until day 31. Day 31, she said, you better pray this works. So I went to work with Dan, and in 2 years, Dan quadrupled my revenue at A.G. Edwards and took me from the 6,699th ranked advisor at the firm to the top 30 nationwide for opening new accounts. So it worked incredibly well. It got me written about in industry trade journals. It got me written about in books on financial advisor marketing. And all of a sudden, my phone starts ringing with all of these financial advisors who say, I want to do what you did. How do I do it? And I said, Dan, what do I do? And Dan said, you start a marketing company and you do it for them. So I started Market Domination LLC about 9 years ago. It started out as just me and one advisor who was my first client. It's now me in an office building full of a wonderful team, and we serve thousands of business owners all over the globe, literally in almost every time zone on the planet. So marketing saved my butt. It took me from making cold calls to the top of my industry and then the top of the marketing industry. And the reason why is because I started a podcast. The reason I started a podcast was because I was interviewing the top thought leaders in marketing. The people I looked up to, the people I wanted to learn from, the people who I saw speak on stage at events. And I started interviewing them to pick their brains and learn from them without having to pay them a fortune. And I transcribed those interviews and I turned it into a book called Cutting Edge Marketing Magic. And I had all the audio files for that book. And I thought, in a flash of inspiration, I was listening to a podcast on my phone one day, and I said, oh my God, I have all these audio files. A podcast is just an MP3 file, basically. I should start a podcast. So I started a podcast, direct response marketing. I used some of the marketing techniques I'm going to teach you today to market my podcast, and it took off. It got to the top of iTunes. I've been number 3 on iTunes. I've gotten to interview some of the most amazing people in my industry and some of the most amazing people in business, household names that I couldn't have gotten to without a podcast. And I want to show you how to do the same thing. But let me back up for just 1 second. I don't want to assume anything. I don't want to assume that you know what a podcast is. So a podcast is like a radio show on your phone or computer. Now, why would you want a podcast? Why would you want a radio show? Well, right now, there are over 1 billion people listening to podcasts. 1 billion with a B. That's a staggering number. But the news just keeps getting better because Apple has signed a deal with every major car manufacturer for something called CarPlay, where the Apple Podcast interface is going to be pre-built into your dashboard of every new car you buy, which means in the next 4 years, there are going to be 3 billion people listening to podcasts. And the most used apps other than social media are the podcast app and Amazon. So if you don't have a podcast or a book, how are they going to find you? Now think about it. If the Apple interface is in every car, even if you don't have an iPad, iPhone, iMac, you now have an iCar, whether you like it or not. So let me share with you some of the myths, some of the things people tell me all the time about why this won't work or why they don't do it, why people miss out. If there's going to be 3 billion people listening, why wouldn't you start a podcast? Number one, people tell me, I've been so frustrated. I've tried to call or email or mail or buy lunch for the people I want to get in front of, those A wish list prospects or those thought leaders in your industry. And I've been frustrated because they're not returning my calls, they're not returning my emails. I sent flowers, I just can't get in front of them. Well, you think those important people are important to you, but what they really want to feel is important. It's all about their ego. It's all about everybody's favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's what they're thinking. So if it's all about you and what you want, it's not going to work. You've tried that. What if instead you were offering to interview them on your podcast and promote that interview on the platform that will have 3 billion people listening to it? All of a sudden, that's going to get their attention. That's going to change the dynamic in the relationship to something where they're grateful to you and now they owe you a favor and now they love you because you're doing something for them. Now, myth number 2 is, well, I'm not famous. Nobody's going to listen to me. Well, you are one of the innovative few starting a podcast on the top platform in the world that will have 3 billion people listening to it. So I think that pretty much covers it, how if you're not quote unquote famous, all you need to be is famous to the people that you want to get in front of, and this will do that for you. Now, you might think, a lot of people say, I don't have time to do a podcast. Guess what? It takes a whole lot less time than you think. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for an interview, and you air an interview once a week. So that means you could either do 30 minutes a week, every week, or you could even do it all together and do it in 2 hours a month and knock them all out in 1 2-hour segment. So the time isn't an issue. People ask me all the time about the technology. Do I need some fancy $500 mic in some studio in my basement, and how am I going to do this? You don't anymore. The hurdle is gone. You can record your podcast via Skype. You can record it via freeconferencecall.com. You can record it via GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, depending on how tech savvy you are. You could record it on a voice recorder from Office Depot for $20. You could even record it with a free iPhone app called Call Recorder, where you just pay for the minutes of recording time that you use. And then there's the technicalities. What do I do with the audio once I've got it? How do I get it to iTunes? How do I get my show to rank in iTunes? How do I get people to see it? How do I get the person I interview to promote it for me? How do I promote the show? What do I do with it after it's done? And we're going to talk about how you can get all of that done for you. But I want to show you the steps to an uber successful podcast. So how does this work for you if you're in a networking business or a network marketing business? First of all, there's a couple key strategies to use. One, you want to interview your existing customers. and have them talk about their experience with your product or service. Because one, it's a great way to get a testimonial. Two, they will share it with all their friends and family members and expose them to your product and your opportunity. So one, you want to interview your existing customers. Two, you want to interview your existing distributors, people who are in your downline who are being successful, because they will share it with their downline and get them energized, and they will share it with other people and use it as a recruiting tool, which will help them recruit more people under you. So one, interview your customers. Two, interview distributors. Three, interview potential distributors. Don't just take them to a party or a hotel meeting or whatever it is. Interview them first. Talk about other things on the air, about other things they're involved in. Build a relationship that way so that when you do present what you've got, they're going to be a whole lot more receptive because you're their new best friend, because you put them on your show, and maybe you put them in the book. And then four, you could interview people who would be ideal referral sources. So let's say you've got a health-related product. You could interview chiropractors who could, when they share that interview with their 500 patients, those patients are now exposed to you. You could interview, if it's a health product, you could interview personal trainers, chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, doctors, you name it. If it was a business-related product, maybe you're interviewing CPAs and commercial realtors and commercial loan officers. I don't know, but what the answer is, depending on your opportunity. But hopefully that gets your wheels spinning in terms of how you could use this in your network marketing business.
The first thing you need is your podcast needs to have a concept and a name. And we'll show you some examples of those. Now, you need interview questions because once you have an account on iTunes, once you have a podcast on a media platform, you're now a reporter, and reporters interview people. So you need an interview script that's in a psychologically proven format to get your guests the most engaged, to allow them to feel the best and warm and fuzzy about your interview, to allow them to show off so that they will want to share it with their world, which of course makes you famous to those people too. Then you need to book your first guest. So you've got to make that list or get it done for you of who those ideal referral sources are, who those ideal customers are, who those people are that you look up to that you want to build relationships with and get in front of, and then you've got to get them to be on your show. Now, I talked about how I was going to share with you some tricks to getting your show ranked higher in iTunes. So if you go to iTunes and you go to podcasts right now and you search personal branding, the number one podcast is Life is a Marathon by Bruce Van Horn. But it's not actually Life is a Marathon. It's Life is a Marathon, life coaching, self-esteem, personal development, personal branding, positive thinking. And his name isn't just Bruce Van Horn, it's Bruce Van Horn, author, speaker, life coach, motivational, thought leader, blogger, runner. Why is he doing that? Well, those are the keywords he wants his podcast to rank for. And iTunes gives you free real estate, all of these characters where you can put in your title. You might as well use them all to help your show rank higher. I'm going to show you an example of that. So this is Dr. Ivan Misner, the founder of BNI, the world's largest referral networking organization. And Ivan did my show and then had me on his show. Now, the interesting thing is there is one episode of my podcast with Ivan Misner's name on it. Ivan has about 438 episodes with his name on that. But if you go in the podcast app and search Ivan Misner, I come up first for the podcast and second for episodes. So I rank higher for Ivan for his own name than Ivan does because I've used tricks like this and other tricks we're going to do for you to get my show to show up. And if you look for some of the thought leaders that I've had the good fortune to interview, I rank for their names too. So people search them out for podcasts and find me. And the same thing can happen to you. Now, what else you need for your podcast to be uber successful? You need a professional introduction. I talked about how a podcast is like a radio show on your phone. Well, radio shows have professional introductions. So, for example, I'm going to share with you some of them because, if you listen to Rush Limbaugh, love him or hate him, Rush doesn't introduce himself. There is a professional introduction with a voiceover actor or actress and music. So it sounds like a radio show. Your podcast needs to sound the same, and I'm going to share with you some introductions right now.
Welcome to the Campaign Coach Podcast. Craig Turner is a nationally recognized political consultant who has managed campaigns for 2 decades. On the show, Craig interviews politicians and political experts to share how they get elected, stay elected, and make a difference. And you can too. For a free copy of Craig's New Candidate's Guide, How to Avoid the 7 Biggest Mistakes That Can Keep You from Getting Funded, Getting Votes, and Getting Elected, go to thecampaigncoach.com. And now, here's your host, Craig Turner.
So now you've got a professionally produced introduction. Your introduction needs to have 3 parts. It needs to be lead generation for the show. It needs to be a little mini commercial for why they should listen to the show. It needs to position you as the thought leader in your space, your expertise, and it needs to tell them what to do next after they listen to the show. Are they going to your website? Are they going to your social media? Are they registering for a video series or a webinar like this one? You've got to tell them what to do. Next, you need cover art. And I'm going to show you some examples of successful cover art because cover art helps people find you in iTunes and it helps you rank higher. So this is LinkedIn for Business, the #1 LinkedIn podcast with Ted Prodromou. It's got the title on it, it's got his picture, it's got who he is, it's got a web address, and it's got a microphone so they know it's an audio podcast. This is the Denture Success Podcast with Dr. Rick Jikomes. Again, head and shoulders shot, title, audio mic, his name, and then some cute teeth. You don't necessarily need cute teeth on your podcast, but you need some type of art, just like we've got LinkedIn for Ted, so that they know what they're getting into. So we've got a professionally produced introduction. We've got cover art. Then you need a place to host your show to get it to iTunes. There's literally hundreds of software companies that will do this for you. We like Libsyn. I'm not an affiliate of Libsyn.com. I don't get paid for saying that, but we've used a dozen of them, and it's one of the easiest, most user-friendly ones by far. You upload a podcast to Libsyn. Libsyn tells iTunes every week that you've got a new show, and it automatically shows up in Apple. Then what you're going to do is you're going to wash, rinse, and repeat. Every week, you're going to air another episode. And then the way you turn it into a book is you are going to transcribe each episode, means type what you hear, and then edit it because we don't talk like people read. And then you need a couple chapters about you and your story and how fabulous you are, and you've got yourself a book. Now, the secret sauce behind this, in my opinion, is our multi-step, multimedia direct response marketing campaign that get those ideal guests to want to do your show for you. We also have a marketing campaign that goes to those guests to get them to promote the show, one that gets them to buy copies of the book when the book comes out, and one that we write in their voice that goes out to their customers, clients, and patients, sending them a copy of the book. So that makes you famous to those people too. Now, what is the type of investment for all of this? Well, if you wanted to hire Dan Kennedy like I did years ago, to hire Dan Kennedy to write a marketing campaign for you right now is over $100,000 plus royalties. Don't worry, it doesn't cost anywhere near that. There's another firm like ours, Tucker Max, that will do your book for you, but they will just interview you and write your autobiography for you. The only person who's going to promote your autobiography is you, though, and it costs $24,000 to have them do it. Ours isn't even a fraction of that, so stay with me. I hope I'm inspiring you to be our next success story. I hope I'm inspiring you to start a podcast, turn it into a book, and to get those relationships that you want and to get famous to the people you want to be famous for. Because if all the system does for you is get you in front of your dream referral sources and prospects, is it worth it? If all it does is get your book done without you having to actually write it and now you're a published author, is it worth it? If all it does is get you new customers, clients, and patients, is it worth it? You know, what if after the book came out, you did a book launch party and everyone came to the party, you did a book signing, the press covered it and made you look amazing, and you got a ton of buzz out of it and business and relationships that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to get? What if you did a book networking group every single month where everyone in the book got together every month and exchanged referrals and business and relationships back and forth? What would it do for your business if all of that was done for you? Now, one of my favorite people, one of the people I look up to is Tony Robbins. And Tony says, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. So if you do nothing, if you say, wow, Seth, Corey, that was great information, I learned a lot, and you never do anything with it, your business isn't going to change. But if you take action on what you learn here today, imagine where your business could be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now. It could be completely different. So let me share with you how you can get this all done for you and how it works. Our podcast marketing magic program, we create your podcast for you. We create the professional introduction for you. We find the guests for you. We write the interview questions for you. We edit the audio and we upload it to iTunes. We then transcribe and edit every episode. We do the graphic design, layout, and publishing of the book. We market and promote the book. We will even provide the marketing materials to send out to your guests and to the folks in the book, and then for them to send out to their customers, clients, and patients as well. Getting you those relationships you want, getting your foot in the door with the people you want, and building those relationships in a way that no other type of marketing ever could. Does that make sense? Awesome.
So guys, I told you in the beginning that I asked Seth to show you something amazing about podcasts, and he did. He showed you how you don't have to be famous to have famous people want to talk to you. He showed you how you can get this out there. He showed you how you can get your foot in the door with almost anybody you could ever want to meet. He showed you how you're going to be able to get referral sources to refer to you. He showed you podcasts and how amazing they can be. Now, like I said, I wanted him to give you a deal. And before I give you that deal, I want to tell you this, right? In all of my experience with all the people I've ever worked with and all the things that I've ever sold or asked people to be part of, I can say that I know that you're inspired and you're motivated and you're excited about what you just heard. And if you're not, you weren't listening, and I hope you were listening, right? But what I can tell you is there's two big reasons that people do not take action. Two things, no matter what field we're talking about, health, finances, marketing, there's two reasons we don't make that first step, right? The first one's procrastination. And the second one is money. Now, unfortunately, with procrastination, right, like I can't fix that for you, neither can Seth. I think we both wish we could. But what we can do is this. We can say there's a 24-hour timer going off right now. And it's going off not because we're mean, not because Seth is mean, but because this. A, we want to reward decisiveness, and B, right, because you can't offer this deal to everyone. It's just, it's not possible to give this big of a deal to so many people, right? So number one, while I can't fix procrastination, while Seth can't fix procrastination, right, we can tell you that when that 24-hour timer goes to zero, that the deal is off the table. Fair enough, right? And the second thing I can tell you is finances. Now, I know what this is worth, right, because I've got a podcast and I get what this does. But what I can tell you is that the price that he typically does this for, $2,000 a month, I think that's a steal. But the deal that I got him to offer, if you'll take action before my 24-hour timer is done here, is that he's going to cut it in half. And guys, that's ridiculous. So if you go to the link that he's about to show you here, and go ahead and bring that link up, right? If you go to this link and you go to the site, then instead of $2,000 a month, you get everything he said he's going to do for you for $1,000 a month. And listen, he even made it better, right? I told him he didn't have to, but he even made it better. So if you already clicked the link, hopefully you can still hear me. Come back. Because if you go to this link and you buy this before the 24-hour timer is off, he's going to throw some bonuses in, some extra motivation, because you know what? I know he loves podcasts. I know he loves what they do. I know he loves working with the clients that are good fits, which, by the way, yes, you're going to have a conversation and make sure this is a good fit, not just for him, but for you as well, right? But if you actually act before the 24 hours is up, you get 3 bonuses. Number one, Seth does, well, you know what? I'm not going to explain these. Seth, 3 bonuses. What are they?
1, I teach our cutting and marketing strategies 2 to 3 hours a month to a group of business owners and entrepreneurs around the world in our mastermind group. This is we will get access to a lifetime's worth of access to recordings of every session we do every single month, teaching you everything you need to know to stay on the cutting edge of direct response marketing and promote yourself and your business. Number 2, I'm going to give you a copy of every single one of my books, giving you a complete marketing library of everything you need to know. And number 3, I'm going to give you my access to my personal swipe file, the marketing campaigns that I've either been a part of or had someone share with me that generated millions of dollars of business that we use to be inspired by, to swipe from, to write marketing campaigns for our clients. So I'm going to give you the 2 to 3 hours of video training every month. I'm going to give you the 6 copies of my books, and I'm going to give you my personal swipe file so you have everything you need to totally crush it with your business.
So guys, absolutely ridiculous. So bring the link back up. The deal is really simple, right? Whatever's left on that timer is what you've got. Go to the link, get your podcast up, tell the world about the great things you have to share, get the bonuses he's got, and go out there and just absolutely kill it and have a blast doing it. And I know Seth just absolutely can't wait to work with you. So we're looking forward to it. Now go to the link.
What if you don't want it done for you? What if you're a do-it-yourselfer? Or what if it's just not in your financial reach right now to afford the generous 50% offer at $1,000 a month? Well, the good news is we've got some options for you. For only $97, you can get access to my video training. It's about 2 hours where I taught live in person to a group of business owners and entrepreneurs how, step by step, we do this process. So I'll teach you our secret sauce for getting guests. I'll teach you how you can get your voiceover and your intro done. I'll teach you how the audio gets edited. I'll literally teach you everything you need to know to do it yourself. And you can watch it video training as many times as you want, and it's $97. The next level up from that is my podcast marketing magic workbook, which is $197, and that is literally fill in the blank, a downloadable document with fill in the blank templates for writing your intro, writing your interview questions, what you say
in the marketing to the guests. Literally, you follow along, you fill in the blanks, and you get everything done. So again, you can do the $97 video training, the workbook is $197, and the done for you is $997.